Welcome to Sports Betting Podcast from pregame.com for the week of December 9th, 2009. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Vegas runner, genuine professional bettor here in Las Vegas, Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business. This is segment 5 of 6, big game preview, Giants, Eagles. All right, Vegas runner, as usual, you're the line move expert. Tell us about the line move in this game.
Okay, Giants opened as a 1-point home favorite with a total of 47.5. As of this morning, the Giants are still a 1-point home favorite. The total's 44.5. So definite money on the under. And what I like is this is guaranteed actual true steam. They like the under because they hit it under like 3 or 4 times. Each time the book adjusted it down to 46, they hit it. Down to 45.5, they hit it. 44, I mean, they moved it all the way down. So
like we said, early moves on the under, especially like you said, multiple barrels that they're firing, is a sign of genuine steam.
Yeah.
Now, you do a true steam blog in which you talk about what steam is true and what's not.
Exactly.
And that's at pregameblogs.com. To me, once you hit mid-November, you always got to keep in mind with the outdoor football games,
the weather.
Is it a true handicap, or are they making a weather play? Are they thinking that their weather forecast is saying there's a better chance of snow or whatever, or wind, which is even more important when it comes to totals, and a lot of people don't realize that. Is it a weather play or is it a handicap? You have any sense of that?
I think it's based on weather because, and I think a little of both. The East Coast is getting bad weather right now. I mean, we're hearing it, we're seeing it. But also the history of this series is, 13-3 to the under when they play in New York.
So you think a combination?
So I think it's a combination of both. They thought this number came out a little too high, especially because they scored so many points in that first game, 57 points, that I think they brought this total out a little inflated because that total was only 43, and they brought this one out 47.5, 4.5 points higher than it was back in early November. And you got to add the cold of the winter, so that's an inflated number to me.
Me and your video this week in Vegas, we talked about the Dallas Giant game last week. That's a misleading final score.
Right.
That game was 3-0 with 4 minutes to go in the first half. And all of a sudden, they scored 21 points in a 4-minute span.
Yeah, so this was an inflated total, and I think the wise guy said our number shows 44, and they just kept blasting
and
it
if
till
you
they
remember
got
the
there.
first game, you talked about 40-17. Same thing happened in that game. That game was close at the beginning, and there was like a 3 possession where the
turnovers,
Giants had 2 quick turnovers and a kick return blew that game wide open for Philadelphia.
Yeah, the Giants held the ball 35 minutes in that game and lost 40-17.
All right, so we don't have an official free pick in this game, and we've given out all 3 official free picks in other videos, and you can check those out directly at pregame.tv. Marco, what really jumps out at you as a handicapper?
Well, even with what we just said, looking at the New York Giant defense, this team has given up 20 points or more 7 straight weeks. And that's just unheard of. I mean, when you say Giants, the first thing that comes, you never think of them as an offensive team. You always thought of the Giants, as a defensive team, and they're not that anymore.
But it's points allowed. They're letting people score on them. When you look at them, the categories defensively, they're in the top 10 in everything. In total defense, they're 6th. Against the pass, they're 7th.
So you're saying
maybe
they've been unlucky, because that's what happens is there's a luck factor in these stats where things like yards and such it's not about luck, but things like points, is there an interception in the red zone and all that?
It's got to be, because they're the 25th worst defense in scoring, the 25th worst scoring defense, and yet they're 6th in total defense.
So you're saying that potentially the Giants' D is underrated?
I think so, according to those numbers.
Now let's look at the line real quick. Clearly, they're saying Philly is the much better team. As much as we can say Giants aren't what the Giants are supposed to be, the Giants would have been 3.5 probably.
And they were. The future line was 3, yeah.
3.5. And the Giants had a better future odds to win the Super Bowl. They were about 9-1, if I remember correctly, than the Eagles. So this was considered a superior team. coming in, and now they're almost pick 'em at home, which is saying about a 2-point advantage for Philly, but even more because you're coming off a 3. Are the Giants relatively that bad to you?
And they closed as a favorite on the road in Philly in that game. They went the favorite the first game.
All right, so there's been a big swing. Is it legitimate on the Giants? Meaning that are they as relatively poor as they seem?
The Giants aren't as bad as they appear. Their public perception, their stock value is down. The Eagles' value is way up right now. Plus, you had Philadelphia had a big win on the road last week where they put up 40 points, or not 40 points last week.
Against Atlanta. They destroyed them.
They destroyed them. What concerns me about that game, one, they played an Atlanta team that was banged up, but they got caught up in the hype.
With Vic, yeah.
With Michael Vick. Andy Reid actually made a comment that it was like a scene out of Rudy. The crowd was chanting to get Vic in the game.
So what does that have to do with this game?
Well, sometimes whenever players, chemistry on teams, I don't know if that was a good thing chemistry-wise to do that with Vic. To make game plan, to have
McNabb
plays
don't like it, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, so you could look at the other way, is this was a big investment they made and he might start paying off. So I'm not sure, and again, you might be right. I'm not sure that's a huge factor. Let's drill down to the relative lines between Dallas. So Dallas was at the Giants last week. What did that line close at?
2.5, wasn't it?
Did it touch 3 at any point?
It was 3 at one point.
So at some point you could get the Giants plus 3 at home.
Yeah.
And now you're getting the Giants plus 1, or excuse me, the Giants are laying 1. So about a 4-point swing off a key number of 3. That's a huge swing.
Huge.
Oh, you telling me Dallas is 4 points better than Philly? Dallas and Philly right now in a neutral is a pick 'em game, right? So really, the fact that the Giants won this game, the view of the Giants has been adjusted drastically, it would seem.
I agree.
So it seems to me that it was either a crazy line on last week where Dallas was laying 3, but you're saying Dallas should have won that game if you look at the stats, right?
The game should have been closer than it was. The Giants capitalized on big plays, and that punt return sealed the win for them in that game.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying is, if the Dallas and the Cowboys played 10 times, from what you saw on Sunday, how many times did the Giants win? How many times did the Cowboys win?
I still say the Giants win, but probably only 6 out of 10.
All right. So, and how would you compare Dallas and Philly?
Dallas and Philly, coming off of last week, I give Philly a little bit of an edge.
All right, so we got, in your mind, the better team who's getting 1 at the Giants, and the worst team last week was getting 3.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Or excuse me, laying 3. They were laying 3. So there's been a 4-point swing. So doesn't it scream that the value's on the Eagles here?
Absolutely.
Is that how you lean?
That's how it is, but again, people look at this Giant team, this was a team that was expected to challenge for the NFC crown this year, and this is basically a playoff game.
It is. That's a Sunday night game, correct, too?
They're playing at home Sunday night. The loser of this game, their playoff hopes take a severe hit. The winner of this game can control his own.
It's an important game. I'm just having trouble getting you to say anything. Who do you like in this game?
If you put the gun to my head in this game,
so you think the line's right?
I think the line's right. I think the value's in the under in the game. If I had to make a play right now,
all right, so lean towards the under.
I would play the under.
All right, lean towards the under. Philly's 38-18 as a dog, so that's a long trend if you think about it. But remember,
they're favored a lot, that team.
You got the same quarterback. You've got the same coach for that whole, pretty much that, if not that whole trend. You've got a team that does very well when they are underdogs, though they're small dogs in this case. I just scream. To me, I agree with you. I think the side's a pass, or at least I agree with your first instinct, because I think that last week it was a crazy inflated line, and all the value was on the Giants. There's been a drastic change, but now it's probably right where it should be.
I think it's where the number should be, too.
All right, good conversation. Got a little theoretical there, but that's good stuff. Okay, next up is the Monday night game, and we're going to be previewing Arizona at San Francisco. And remember, you can get all of our videos at pregame.tv, or if you want to download and listen, just go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.